The apparition of a glowing, ghostly schooner floated along the horizon off the coast of Kent when it suddenly disappeared, just as quickly and quietly as it had appeared. The man's heart pounded as he tried to rationalize what he'd just seen. No way it was a glowing ship, just sailing as if frozen in time. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't deny what he'd seen, and he wasn't the first person to witness it, nor would he be the last. But what happened to this ship and other ghost ships like it? Would their mysteries ever be solved? Happy Halloween! I hope it is a safe, fun, and happy holiday for all of you. Today, in honor of spooky season, we are going to look into some bizarre stories of ships, crews, or both just vanishing into thin air. The first we'll start with is MV Joyita. Joyita was a wooden luxury yacht that survived World War II to be privately purchased in 1952 to be used as a trading and fishing charter boat. At 5 a.m. on October 3, 1955, Joyita left Samoa's Apia harbor bound for the Tokelau Islands about 270 miles away. She was supposed to leave the day before, but her port engine clutch failed, so she left the next day with one engine operational. She had 16 crew and 9 passengers for a total of 25, one of these being a government official, Dr. Andy Dennis Parsons. Her cargo consisted of medical supplies, timber, 80 empty 45-gallon oil drums, and various foodstuffs. The voyage was supposed to only take 41 to 48 hours, so Joyita was planned to arrive in the Tokelau Islands on October 5th. On October 6th, a message from Fakovo Port reported the ship was overdue. There was no distress signal, she just disappeared. A rescue effort was launched, and from October 6th to the 12th, there was no sign of Joyita. 5 full weeks later, on November 10th, the merchant ship Tuvalu, heading from Suva to Funafuti, spotted Joyita more than 600 miles west of her scheduled route, drifting north of Vanuatu. The ship was partially submerged and listing heavily, with her port deck awash, and there was no sign of her crew or passengers, as well as 4 tons of cargo missing. The radio was discovered to have been tuned to the International Marine Radio Telephone Distress Channel, 2182 kHz. Some odd things were found on Joyita, and we'll cover some of that. Number 1, barnacle growth high above the usual waterline on the port side that showed she'd been listing for some time. 2, damage to the superstructure. Her flying bridge had been smashed away, and the deckhouse had light damage and smashed windows. A canvas awning had been rigged on top of the deckhouse behind the bridge. 3, Joyita carried a dinghy and 3 Carly life rafts, and all were missing. She did not have enough life jackets for everyone on board. 4, the starboard engine was covered by mattresses, and the port engine's clutch was still partially disassembled, so the vessel was still running on one engine. The starter motor of the starboard auxiliary engine was missing, so this engine was probably out of commission too. 5, like I said earlier, the radio was tuned to the distress channel, but there was a break in between the set and the aerial. This cable had been painted over, so the range was limited to about 2 miles. 6, the electric clocks on board, which were wired into the ship's generator, stopped at 10:25 and the switches for the cabin lighting and navigation lights were on, indicating this happened at night. 7, the logbook, sextant, mechanical chronometer, and other navigational equipment, as well as the 1 firearm on board, were gone. 8, there was still fuel in Joyita's tanks, and from the amount consumed, we can say she traveled some 243 miles before the vessel was abandoned, about 50 miles within Tokelau. 9, the vessel's bilges and lower decks were flooded, though her hull was found to be sound, and once the water was pumped out, she bobbed about normally without a list. However, there was a sound on board that sounded like water getting in, and it was found that there was a pipe in the raw water circuit of the port auxiliary engine's cooling system that had failed due to galvanic corrosion, allowing water into the bilges and destabilizing Joyita. This leak wouldn't have been discovered until after it came over the engine room's floorboards, and at that point it would be too difficult to determine the cause. 10, and finally, a doctor's bag was found on deck with a stethoscope, scalpel, and 4 lengths of blood-stained bandages found inside. The passengers and crew have never been located, and it's mind-boggling why they abandoned ship. The ship was practically unsinkable, and I know we've heard that so many times before, but it's true this time. The ship was fitted out for carrying refrigerated cargo and therefore insulated with 640 cubic feet of cork, as well as the empty fuel drums, all of which made her incredibly buoyant. The inquiry into the loss cited the burst cooling pipe as the reason for her flooding, which makes sense, but they never mentioned the bloodied bandages. What could have happened that caused the passengers and crew, one or more possibly injured, to have just up and left Joyita? This question sticks in the mind of anyone who hears this baffling tale, and sadly, it may never be answered. Next, we get into another bizarre case, often called the ghost yacht. Kaz II is a catamaran with a strange story. Kaz II's crew consisted of 3 Perth, Western Australia residents: skipper Des Batten, 56 years old, Peter Tunstead, 69 years old, and James Tunstead, 63 years old. Batten was not a very experienced skipper, so keep that in mind. According to the Australian Maritime Safety Authority, Kaz II departed from Airlie Beach on April 15, 2007, heading for Townsville, Queensland, on the first leg of a journey to go around northern and western Australia. The first indication of a problem came about on April 18th, when a helicopter reported seeing Kaz II adrift in the vicinity of the Great Barrier Reef, and that her crew were potentially in distress. On April 20th, maritime authorities caught up with the boat and boarded her. They found the 3-man crew had vanished in bizarre circumstances. In a statement delivered on the day of the boarding, the Queensland Emergency Management Office officials revealed that the boat was in serviceable condition and laid out as if the crew were still on board. Food and flatware were set out on the table, a laptop was set up and on, and the engine was stirring and whirring away. It was as though the 3 men simply went poof into thin air. Just here one second, and gone the next. Officials also confirmed that the boat's emergency systems, which included her radio and GPS, were fully functional, and that she still had her full complement of life jackets. There was even a small boat still hoisted on the stern of Kaz II, and the anchor was up. The only signs that were out of the ordinary, other than the disappearance of the crew, were that one of the boat's sails had been badly shredded, and that there were no life rafts on board, but we don't know if they ever had one to begin with. Search and rescue efforts turned up nothing, and we still have no idea how these 3 men disappeared or why they would abandon ship. If that's even what happened. If you are enjoying this episode and want more interesting stories, check out our second channel, Aviation Disasters Explained, the first 5 episodes of which go up on November 29th. Okay, let's get into more mind-boggling ghost ship mysteries. Next, we get into the Lady Lovibond, a legendary schooner believed to have wrecked on the Goodwin Sands off the coast of Kent on February 13, 1748, and she is said to reappear every 50 years as a ghostly apparition. No contemporary records of the ship or her supposed sinking have been found. According to the legend, the ship was at sea on February 13th because her captain had just married and was out celebrating with a cruise. According to numerous accounts, the ship was heading for Porto in Portugal. Despite the long-standing sailor superstition that it was bad luck to bring a woman aboard, he'd brought his bride. Apparently, the first mate was a rival for the hand of the captain's bride, and he was pacing the decks in a jealous rage. While the captain, his wife, and their guests were celebrating the marriage below deck, the first mate was caught up in a fit of jealous anger. He casually drew a heavy, club-like belaying pin from the rail and walked up softly behind the crew member behind the wheel and smacked him upside the head with it, sending him flying with one hit. He then grabbed the wheel and steered the ship onto the treacherous Goodwin Sands, killing everyone aboard, including himself. A true case of, if I can't have her, nobody can. The first supposed sighting of the apparition was on February 13, 1798, and reported by at least 2 ships. The Goodwin Sands are known for creating several ghost ships, like SS Montrose and the Shrewsbury, as well as the Lady Lovibond. There is some speculation that the ship has never even existed, and unfortunately, since it has been well over 300 years, we may never know for sure. These are just 3 examples of the thousands of ghost ships whose mysteries are forever burned into historical record and the minds of those that know their stories. Some witness them, others hope for a day that the mystery will be solved.